Okay, so in this lecture, we discussed two important examples, two important analytical examples of rings. Okay, so example one, what we do is that we consider the collection of all functions from the closed interval 0 1 to r. Okay, so uh, let S be the collection of all functions from the closed interval 0 1 to r. Okay. Um, so my question is that is S a ring? Is S a ring? Okay. Now clearly enough, if I consider say F and G are from S, then observe that if I consider F plus G of X, then that's still continuous and it's still a function from 0 1 to r. And if I consider the multiplication of maps, the pointwise operations are which are what we are considering typically, then again it's still continuous, right? Clear? Therefore it's indeed a ring, right? S is a ring. The other properties are very simple to verify. Why is it simple to verify? If I say, then you can immediately talk about the associativity of these pointwise addition and pointwise multiplication of mappings, and there's nothing too complicated there, right? What more can we say is that, see, if let me do it in a more generalized way. Okay, let me state the same example in a more generalized way. Let X be a non-empty set and A be any ring, then I consider R to be the collection of all functions from X to A. Okay, and what is the operation we are choosing? We are simply choosing the same pointwise addition and pointwise multiplication of functions. Then clearly enough, R indeed also forms a ring. R is also a ring, right? So if I just replace the closed interval 0 1 to any arbitrary non-empty set, and I choose the domain, a codomain, to be any arbitrary ring, then still I can form a similar structure, where even it's much weaker in sense, because we are also removing the concept of continuity there. Much stronger in sense, I should say, much more general in sense. Then R is also a ring. You can easily verify this out. Moreover, the things which you can easily observe is that R is commutative. R is commutative if and only if A is commutative, right? Because ultimately when we are talking about the operations on R, then we are considering pointwise addition and pointwise multiplication. So the element fx or gx, whichever element you choose out from R, that element will precisely be an element in A. So if A is commutative, R is commutative, and the converse is trivially true. Similarly, if R has an identity, if R has 1, or I should write it, R has 1 if and only if A has 1. A has 1. And what should be the 1 in this case? It's necessarily the constant map 1. Constant map 1. Okay, clear? I guess this part is clear, right? Now I can also think of considering continuous functions, but will it cause any difference? It won't cause any difference, right? Because just implying the concept of continuity will cause no change in the structure of the rings on its own, right? But in this case, the only thing which we prefer to do is that I take X to be the closed interval 0 1 and I choose A to be R, because that's more analytic in nature when we talk about analytic examples, Okay, then so what I'm doing is that, like, I assumed S to be the collection of all maps from let's say we took it 0 1, right, from 0 1 to R, and we are still having the same operations, point-wise addition and point-wise multiplication. But you can easily observe that in this case S is a commutative ring with unity because R is so, right? Clear? Okay. The only thing which you should be concerned about here is that when we are doing the point-wise addition and point-wise multiplication, are the functions or are the results of the function still continuous? But that trivially holds, right? In analysis, that's a very basic fact in analysis, that if you add two continuous maps, you get one more, and if you point-wise multiply two continuous maps, you get one more. This follows from basic limit theorems, right? Just think about the sequential criteria of limits and you will get an answer. Now, I guess we had also studied the concept of a zero divisor. So my question is that whether I can find a zero divisor in this ring. Okay. Let us talk about the same ring where we remove the continuity part. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is that let R be the collection of all maps F from 0 1 to R, where F is not continuous. I'm not assuming F to be continuous. Okay, I missed it here. Here we had assumed that F is continuous. The example we are now going to talk about, we are not considering F to be continuous at this moment. Okay. So what should be the units in R? That is the invertible elements in R. So the units in R will precisely be the functions of the form 1 over F, right? Sorry, the units will be the functions of the form F such that F is non-zero at any point, right? Such that F is non-zero at any point, in its domain, obviously. Because if I talk about an inverse to F, then that will precisely be 1 over F, and I can talk about it being defined if and only if it's non-zero, at least within the domain, which is quite obvious. Also, if I talk about it being non-zero at some point, I simply want to say that it's non-zero in at least one very small neighborhood of that point, right? Whatever. Moreover, if F is not a unit, then F is, I mean to say, now suppose F is not a unit, and let's say F is non-zero as well. Let's say F is non-zero as well. Then my question is that, is F a zero divisor? Is F a zero divisor? But that question can also be very easily calculated. Suppose I choose Gx to be the map, say 0 if Fx is non-zero, and let's say 1 if Fx is 0. Then you can clearly observe that G is indeed not a zero function as well, but Fx Gx is 0. Fx Gx is 0. Here I want to say that F is not identically 0. I am not talking about F being 0 at some point. I am talking about F being not identically 0. That is, F is not 0 everywhere on the domain, right? This you can easily visualize that, suppose I consider the closed interval like this. I want to map F and G. Okay. See, what I want to do is that, so I want to consider Gx to be 0 when Fx is non-zero. Suppose let's say I can map, I want to map like x and Fx. That's what I want to try to do. Okay. So suppose let me write it like this, that I map the domain elements here, and I map the image of the domain elements in terms of any function we choose out from R here. Okay. So you can just think of it like this. Suppose this is F. Let's say this is F. let's say this is f. Let me write it like this. Okay, suppose this is f. Okay, and I choose g to be like this. I choose g to be like this. Clear? Then you can easily observe it out that suppose this is f, this is g, then f dot g is clearly 0 at every point. Suppose I consider this to be 0 1, let's say, then f dot g is 0 at every point in 0 1, right? Can we say the same if we talk about continuous functions? Does this still hold for continuous functions? For continuous functions, see the units, even if I consider R to be the same set where now we just assume that each function is continuous, the units are still the same. Okay, that is, the units are still the functions which are non-zero at any point, but there may there may exist functions which are neither units nor zero divisors. Okay, because if I assume the function say x minus 1 over 2, then it has only one 0 at x is equals to 1 over 2, so f is not a unit. But if gf is equals to 0, then g must be 0 for all x not equal to 1 by 2, because we are talking about continuous functions, right? But then g is no more continuous. What I want to say is that suppose I choose fx to be say x minus any 1 over k, let's say any 1 over k, then f of 1 over k is 0, so the only 0 of f is the point 1 over k, right? Therefore, if I want to choose some map g which is non-zero and f of g is equal to 0, where g is still continuous, we are talking about mappings which are continuous and its domain is the closed interval 0 1 and its closed codomain is R. So if fg needs to be 0, then if I abide by the same definition, that should be quite intuitive to talk about such a definition in this case, then g must be non-zero, at 1 over k, but g must be 0 at all x not equal to k, right? G must be 0 for all x not equal to k. But if g is 0 for all x not equal to k, then it's indeed not a continuous function, or rather I should say it's a continuous function if and only if g is 0, right? But we assume that g is non-zero at 1 over k. If I assume g to be even 0 at 1 over k, then we are talking about a 0 function. We need to talk about a non-zero function. So what I want to say is that from here the only conclusion we get is that the only continuous function satisfying this is g is equals to 0, right? Clear? So similarly, if we talk about a function with only a finite number of zeros, in fact a countable number of zeros on the closed interval 0 1, then it can never be a zero divisor. Okay, got it? But we can still talk about some zero divisors. Suppose I choose fx to be of this form. Suppose I choose fx to be 0 when 0 is less than equals to x less than equals to 1 over k, and I choose fx to be x minus 1 over k when it's a 1 over k less than equals to x less than equals to 1. Then if I choose g of x to be f of 1 minus x, then both are continuous by definition and gf will surely be 0. Okay. So let this lecture be up till this much. We are gonna indulge some time in digesting some important examples of rings, and in the next lecture our main focus will be the polynomial rings, matrix rings, more specifically the concept of a group ring. Okay, so meet you guys in the next lecture.